I've had enough of your shit, Derek. Oi, Derek, you and me outside now. Derek, you're a cunt, no? Practicing what I'm going to say to Derek at work. He's been trying to bully me. Big bloke. Some really nasty shit going down, you know, some really underhanded nasty shit. A lesser man would crumble, and he'd love that. Derek would. Oh, he'd love me crumbling all over the fucking shop. But I am not a lesser man. It all came to a head last week. Get this, you won't believe this. Last week, just last Friday, I head to the kitchen at work and straight to the fridge, straight to the top shelf. Now, I always keep my sandwich on the top shelf because then I barely even need to look. I know exactly where my sandwich is. It's on the top shelf. So when I walk straight in, straight to the fridge, top shelf, and I'm away. So I go in, straight to the fridge, top shelf, and there's my sandwich. Gone. I thought, all right, now, where's my sandwich? So I turned to the room. And I ask the whole room, because I am not an accusational man. I turn to the room and I say, excuse me, does anybody know where my sandwich is? And he sniggers. He does. He's sitting there on the couch with his back to us eating a sandwich. And he sniggers. I let it go. I thought I'll ask them again. Maybe a little bit louder this time. Maybe they didn't hear us before. So I say again, I say, excuse me. That's what I say. I say, excuse me. Go a little bit louder, you know, in case they didn't hear us before. I say, excuse me. Does anybody know where my sandwich is? And he sniggers again. He does. Louder. Like he's attempting to match my increase in volume. It's almost a snort, the dirty pig, like he's choking on that sandwich he's shoving in his mouth. It might be his. Who knows? I'm a fair man. He sniggers. And I think, right, that's fucking done it. I feel my temperature rising. I'm instantly clammy, moist. And I know in that very instant, I know that I'm going to kill him. I'm going to throttle the bastard. I go to move towards him, and on that breath, you know that breath you have before something big happens? Before the big shit hits the fan, there's always that breath, isn't there? That sort of, here we fucking go then breath. Well, on that breath, that split second before I move, Sandra says, you'd like Sandra. She's thick as fuck, but harmless, you know. Fancies me rotten. Sandra says, it's on the bottom shelf, Colin, love. I said, you what, Sandra, love? She says, it's on the bottom shelf. So I turn, and I look, and I see me sandwich on the bottom shelf. And he laughs. He does a big old laugh, a big old proper belly laugh. And I am fucking human. It would have been better if he'd eaten the bloody thing. There I stand. And he knows this. There I stand, humiliated. A man of reputable character. Mildness of manner. Prepared, and I mean this, with a sincerity verging on Christian, prepared to kill. And all I had to do was turn and look on the bottom shelf. This, sadly, has been going on for a long time now. Too long. In fact, if I've got my dates right, and I think I have, if I've got my dates right, it's a year ago next Thursday since he broke into my home. Yeah, that shocked you, hasn't it? It's not all sandwich shifting and leaving you out at the Secret Santa with Derek. No, he's a bloody villain. There I was, just minding my own business, you know, sort of fella I am, going about me daily chores, tasks, duties, as it were, when suddenly, crash, me front door flings open. Huh, that'll need fixing, I thought. What's going on here then? Well, there he is, sweating, panting, face distorted. I said, are you all right there, Derek? Can I help you? Cup of tea? It took him a while. He seemed to be rooted to the spot, you know, unable to articulate his thoughts at that given moment. But eventually he spoke, not quite words, hisses almost, as if he was straining to squeeze the breath from his lungs. Stop, he says, and I'll never forget these words for as long as I live. Stop the discomfort etched on his face. Stop having sex with my Suzanne. I said, you what, Derek? He says, stop. Please, stop. And then he started to cry. I said, Derek, mate, what makes you think I'm having sex with your Suzanne? And he says, and again, these words will stay with me. He says, "You are having sex with my Suzanne right now. I'm watching you." He had me there. I'd had no luck that day whatsoever. None. Usually, I'd be in and out of her like a flash, you know, but this day she's caught us off guard and popped round for one just after I'd had a wank, and I didn't want to be rude or anything, so I persevered, but fuck me, it was taking ages. No luck at all. And to top it off, Derek's broke me door. I said to him, he's on the floor at this point, sobbing, broken man, you know. I said, "Derek, I know this doesn't look good, but..." And that's when I ejaculated. Terrible timing on my part, I regret that. I recovered myself. I said, "Derek, I know this doesn't look good, but I am not the enemy here, mate. I'm just shagging her. You know, Jason, who's got the corner shop, he's the enemy. She's leaving with him and she's taken the cat to Cornwall." That's when Derek had his stroke. Generously, considering the state of my front door, I called him an ambulance while he flailed around on the floor. I said, "I've called you an ambulance. All right, Derek, mate." He didn't say anything. Well, it turns out he couldn't. In fact, it would be 3 more months before he'd utter another word. But he did manage to slowly raise his arm and flick me the V's. His right arm, mind you, the left one was fucked. It still is. Left-handed as well. Shame that. I said, you know, something needs to be said here. What's gone on here and now in this house, it's not right. It does not sit well with me at all. I said, "Well, I hope you're happy, Suzanne. I hope you're pleased. Good luck sleeping tonight." She said, "You what?" I said, "You what?" She said, "You what?" And we left it at that. I gave Derek a nod. It felt right that he should know that someone had his back, despite the door. Well, what else could I do? He is me brother. Even so, I don't know what it is, but ever since that day, it's like he's had it in for me or something.
Oh! You think you're so clever, don't you, Colin? Eh? Think you're so bloody smart? You know... Wait. It's all right, Suzanne. I can handle this. Suzanne? You think you're one step ahead, don't you? Eh? Well, I have got some news for you. You are a poohead. Hmm? And you were born out of a bum. Well, that's what I should have said. He's taken everything from me. Everything. Every memory I have is somehow tainted by that man's actions. He was the same when we were children. Exactly the same. Everything I had, he wanted. Everything. And not so that he could enjoy it, mind you. Oh, no. He wanted it because I enjoyed it. Because I enjoyed it, he wanted to destroy it, you see? Toys and clothes, that sort of stuff. No, replaceable stuff. He'd ruin that for me. He would smash up me toys and cut up me trousers and me t-shirts and I could handle that, but the friendships that I had, relationships built up over time, they meant something, but ruined. He saw to that. You know, it got so bad that at the age of 13 years old, I'd sussed out if I were to ever have anything worth keeping that was mine, I would have to think outside of the box. And so I did. And I befriended a local stray cat by the name of Thomas. You see, Colin is very allergic to cats. His face swells up and he has trouble breathing and he nearly died once. So Thomas was a sort of a lifeline to me, you know, an opportunity to create something, a bond. You know, I'm not sure if Thomas's real name was Thomas, or if indeed Thomas even had a real name. As I say, as far as I'm aware, Thomas was a stray, but he was always Thomas to me, and Thomas never showed any indication that he minded that. Oh, how Thomas and I would idle away those long summer days together. We formed a real friendship, we did, and we got up to all sorts. Hell of a hide-and-seek player. Sometimes we would go for days without me finding him, and I'm sure I only ever did find him because he got bored or hungry or something and decided to make it easier for us by turning up and sitting on the garden fence. and then we would laugh at how bad I was at hide-and-seek, and sometimes Thomas would take it too far, and I would have to remind him that he was shit at football, and he didn't like that. But Thomas didn't hold a grudge for long. You know, I learnt a lot from my time with Thomas. I learned how to climb trees. I learned how to catch mice. I learned how to speak cat. Oh, yes. Often raises a few eyebrows. That one. That means, go away. Stop following me. You see, Thomas was such a joker. Colin got to Thomas. He disappeared. I'm unsure of the details, but I found a half-empty packet of antihistamines in the medicine box, and I said to our mum, "Do you know whose these are?" And she went to her bollocks, and that was it. The game was up, and I never saw Thomas again. And after that, the lights sort of went out for me, you know. They were dark days, and then I met Suzanne. Beautiful Suzanne, and everything changed. We were in love at once, and I allowed myself to be affected, touched by another human being for the first time for the first time. I'd put off meeting her parents. I'm not good at meeting new people. I get very anxious and altogether uncomfortable, and the thought of spending an evening with the parents of the woman I loved was difficult. But before I knew it, the big day had arrived, and I was a mess. And it was because this mattered, you see. This mattered. Oh, how I longed for someone to share my load with in those days. A friend, you know. I mean, what would Thomas have said? Probably, but then again, Thomas rarely did mind his language. And so I decided that I would calm my nerves with a glass of wine, just the one, and it helped a bit, not a lot, but a bit, and so I had another one, and then I had another one, and I wouldn't say I was drunk. Rather, I had this nervous energy sort of buzzing in my tummy, and the fear of meeting her parents was replaced by this frantic, let's get this done then attitude, which was doing some queer old damage to my insides, and I was as loose as a goose for a good 2 hours. And so we packed our bags and hopped on the train, and within a couple of hours we were there, and the door swung open, and we were greeted by the warm and friendly faces of Mr. and Mrs. Crawford, who couldn't have been happier to see us. "Come in," they cheered. "Have a drink. Dinner's nearly ready." And it was a beautiful lamb curry. Well, the evening passed with warmth and laughs, and I couldn't have been made to feel more welcome, and I relaxed easily into their family setup, and with a couple of hours, I felt like I was one of them, you know, accepted. And so finally, to bed. The time had come to say our good nights, and at the foot of the stairs, full of food and wine, I shook the hand of Mr. Crawford, thanked him for a truly delightful evening, before making my way upstairs to the spare room where Suzanne and I were sleeping. I told her I would see in there because my tummy hadn't quite finished with me yet, and that lamb curry hadn't helped. And so I went into the bathroom, and I was in there for quite some time. This stuff was literally flying out of me, but eventually I was convinced that the worst was over, and I cleaned myself up before allowing the welcoming coolness of one of the very well-placed wet wipes by the side of the loo to brush between my tender cheeks, as it were, and I thought, now there is a woman who knows her curries. Anyway, I stumbled across the landing into our room, and it was dark, but I could see that Suzanne was in bed, so I thought better of putting on the light. Instead, I decided to take off my clothes, climb under the duvet, and give her a goodnight kiss. You know, stimulate her clitoral region. and why not? You know, this was my night. Life had never been so good. Everything was going my way, and I felt like super Derek, like the incredible Derek, like Derek, like Derek, but just a less shit version. And so I slid under the duvet and positioned myself between her legs in anticipation of a good old-fashioned licking. I have a very, very, very dexterous tongue, I'm happy to report, thanks to my many, many years as a walking understudy for the Bishop Auckland amateur players. Huh? Top of the tongue, tip of the teeth, top of the tongue, tip of the teeth. And so I began. And she resisted at first, just a little, not a lot. Probably, I assumed, worried that her parents might hear us, but then she relaxed and... Then she relaxed a little bit more, and then she screamed the bloody place down. She'd never gone for it like this before. And I was like, oh no, Mr. and Mrs. Crawford are never going to let this one go. But I didn't care, you know, because the wine had taken over, and I thought, well, we will deal with those consequences in the morning. And this was the first time that she'd ever, it's always ever so chuffed with myself. And I didn't notice it at first, but something had changed. Suzanne was suddenly very still, she was unmoving, almost. And I couldn't see properly from underneath the duvet, but yes, there was now light, slowly creeping its way across my face, and I thought, uh-oh... Mr. and Mrs. Crawford obviously couldn't wait until the morning, and so I leapt from the bed, hungry to apologise for my actions, grabbing what little bit of duvet I could to cover up my private penis area, and I looked towards the door where I knew they'd be standing staring, and there they were, standing staring, Mr. Crawford and Suzanne. Lovely. Suzanne, and my eyes flitted from Suzanne and her father to her startled but satisfied-looking mother laying on the bed, and I was confused. I was in shock, and I looked towards Mr. Crawford, who was looking pretty confused himself, in all fairness to him. And Suzanne, tears streaming down her face, and the three of us stood motionless, taking in this most horrendous of scenes for what seemed like forever. And then I don't know how, but without my mind having anything to do with it, my body relaxed, just a little, just enough, and I farted. 7, maybe 8 seconds long, 8 seconds of raspy, spluttery air vacating my body, 8 seconds of my own poo spraying its way out of my own bum, down my leg, forming a lumpy brown puddle of shame between my white socks. It was quite a long road back for us after that. As you might imagine, that's the kind of thing that tends to pop up in conversation from time to time. And for a while I thought it was over, but we fought hard. We fought for each other, but still... And it wasn't long after that when I got a message from Colin. Come quickly, he said. It's important, I need you, he said. The key is under the mat. And so I ran. And I thought, what on earth has he got himself involved in this time? I mean, yes, we had a fractured relationship, but he was still my brother, and if he needed me, I would be there. And so I ran as fast as I could, and by the time I got there, I was short of breath, I could barely speak, and I found the key underneath the mat, and that's when... I don't know why, but that man has always had it in for me. Oh, sorry, love. All right, yes, we're just having a chat.
It's exciting. We're excited. Me, Gary, excited. Gary is the cat. We got him a couple of years back from a rescue home. God, they're sad places, them rescue homes. I mean, I know they're doing a good thing trying to rehome the little fuckers, but shit me out, I couldn't work there, could you? All that fucking barking and meowing and whatever it is rabbits do all day long. Nah, fuck that, not for me. And the smell, bloody shitting and pissing all the live long day. That is a horrible way to spend your 9 to 5, that is. I mean, if you've smelled how bad cat food is before the little bastards digest it, then it'll come as no surprise that by the time they're squeezing out their little cat hoops, it is fucking rotten. I love animals, me. Oh. So, in I go, breath held best to could like, and I'm looking down at all these caged animals as I pass through the room, trying to decide which one to take home with me, to free. God, the look in the eyes of some of them. It stays with you, it does. Haunting. Sort of like, oh, please choose me, look. Needy little bastards. That's the last thing I need, that is, a fucking guilt trip every time I pop to the Aldi. Jog on, Tiddles. So, that is how Gary came to be me cat. Because if I could say one thing about our Gary, it's that he couldn't give a fuck one way or the other about anything. I first approached his cage. It was on the left at the end of the room, it was on the floor. And he stood out straight away, you see, because he wasn't looking at me, he wasn't pleading. He was just sat there with his little name tag on, just licking his cock and balls. And I thought, oh, fair enough, you know, because if I was locked up in a cage with sod all else to do, I'd go to fucking town on myself as well. Then, quite out the blue like, he stops pleasuring himself for a moment and he looks at me, right into my eyes, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like he was trying to decide whether or not to choose me instead of the other way around. So he holds my gaze for a good 10 seconds and he blinks slowly, ever so slightly, lowering his head as he did so, like this. And then he started licking his cock again. So that was that. And it's great. I mean, Gary mainly keeps himself to himself, but he's great company for me once he can be arsed. Gary! Gary! No, it's fine, he's busy. Mind you, he molts like a bastard, but he never shits in his own back garden, so I can't complain. Then, a while back, I noticed something very odd. So I'm in the kitchen, doing the washing up, staring blankly out the window, wondering if I'll ever feel real joy again, when I notice our Gary sitting on the back fence, giving himself a bit of a clean, and slowly, creeping up behind him, is a man. Ever so slowly, this bastard slides up behind me cat, and I'm thinking, shit in hell, he's gonna nick him. I'm witnessing a cat nap. He's some kind of feline pedo, and in the split second before he grabs him, I tried to scream, but no sound will come out. It's like everything in me is frozen, and I'm powerless to do anything apart from watch the dirty bastard rob me cat. And then he strokes him. He strokes Gary. And Gary lets him, he enjoys it, leans into him, almost welcoming the attention from this stranger. Cats know things though, don't they? They've got special cat shit going on. Gary will have known this bloke was coming. He'll have sensed him approaching, I'm sure of it. He'll have sensed this bloke coming and he'll have known he didn't have to move, he didn't have to run away, because he'll have known that this bloke was coming and he'll have sensed that this bloke was good. Gary knows shit, I'm telling you. He outright refused to watch any film produced by Miramax long before Me Too was knocking around. I said, Gary, this is the film that launched Uma Thurman's career and reignited our love for Travolta before we realised he was a nutter. But he was having none of it. He knew. Derek is one of the kindest and gentlest people I've ever met in my entire life. There isn't a bad bone in that man's body. He's an innocent. We bonded over our love of cats and everything really. I fell for him. I loved him from the moment I knew he wasn't a nonce. But when you've seen a man crawl out from between your mother's legs and shit himself, it does alter your perspective. And that's what happened. I needed some space. It broke my heart. But every time he told me he loved me, all I could hear was the sound of my own mother coming like a fucking train. So I ended it. And that was that. Then, I met him, the other one, chased me down the street one day telling me that I dropped a tenner. And I hadn't, I knew I hadn't, but I thought, well, take it anyway. And I'll give him a minute, see what he wants. He was very forthright about his intentions. He asked me out on a date. A date? Dickhead. Do I look like Courtney fucking Cox, you bellend? Oh, a date? This is England, mate. We go for a pint. But he was charming enough and I was lonely, so I said yes. So we met, and we met again, and then we met again, and all right, we were fucking dating, if you like, and it was going pretty well. I liked him. We'd chat, we'd have a few drinks, we'd go back to his, we could never come back to mine because he's allergic to cats. We'd get a bit frisky, I'd be ready to go, and then nothing. He'd stop it dead every time, just like that. He said he wanted to wait for the right time. I mean, I'm all for chivalry and all that bollocks, but there does come a time where you just want to fuck the shit out of someone. And don't get me wrong, this fella's no Brad Pitt, but I'm a couple of wines in and it has been a while. So we waited until he was ready. He had it all planned out. We go back to his this one afternoon, have a couple of drinks, one thing hopefully leading to an orgasm. That was the plan. So, we crack on. We're necking on, things heading in the right direction. When he stops, shushes me, checks his watch and listens towards the door. Nothing. Off we go again. So, we're necking on. He stops, shushes me, checks his watch, listens. I'm thinking, what the fuck is this guy playing at? Off we go again, and then things are heating up, couple of garments of clothing coming up, heading in the right direction. Once again, stops, shushes me, listens towards the door intently. This time, a smile. I've never seen anyone smile like that before. This smile just creeps across his entire face, and he looks at me and says, now. And then he lies himself on the floor. And finally the time has come. So, on a hop, about bloody time and thinking this had better be worth it. Oh. And then, 1, 2, 3, these things happen. 1, 2, 3. These moments just seep into my consciousness. 1, he's just finished. Brilliant. I've only been on top of the bastard 5 seconds and he's jizzed already. This couldn't have gone any fucking worse then. 2, oh, there's someone at the door. Someone is about to see my half-naked arse and his 3 inches of limpness slipping out of me. Now, this day really couldn't have gotten any worse. 3, of course, that is Derek, the love of my fucking life, standing there watching me on top of this prick. Makes sense. Thank you, God. Lesson well learned. Here I was. This day couldn't get any worse, I said, but you showed me. And then Derek fell to the floor. So, as I called for an ambulance, I watched his brother crawl across to him. That fucking smile still etched on his face, even broader than before. He didn't say anything, he just seemed to soak up every second, enjoy every minute. And he looks at me, still half smiling, and he says, oh no, poor Derek, looks like a stroke, nasty. Sometimes it would be better if people just died. His own brother. It was in that moment that I knew that I would be by Derek's side until one of us was dust. Then, a couple of weeks later, I found out that I was carrying 2 little humans inside me, 2 little Dereks. There is, of course, a chance that Derek is not the biological. I can't even say it, but there is a chance. Needless to say, There's only one man who is going to raise my children with me, and it's not going to be the man who stands at the end of his brother's hospital bed, waving his left hand in the air saying, I bet you can't do this. That man has made a complete mess of our entire lives. But you know what? I am really good at cleaning up a mess. I've had him in my sights for a while now. Fucking with him at work. Messing with his head. I've got someone on the inside. Me and Sandra, mates for years. She says he's really starting to lose it. Good. I also have these. These are the keys to Colin's house that Derek had that morning. The spare. Last week, I popped round when I knew that Colin would be at work, and I took this from Colin's house. These are antihistamines. I've been waiting all year for this. Tonight, I'm going to pop round again. Tonight, I'm going to go round to Derek's brother's house and put this under his pillowcase. This is cat hair. Plot twist! I've been collecting Gary's malted cat hair since a year tomorrow. Thursday. 1 year. Tonight, Colin's off out on the lash. Sandra's going to keep him company, make sure he gets a few drinks down him. So he'll come home and fall straight to sleep, and then a couple of hours later, when the alcohol wears off, he'll wake up in a blind panic. Face swollen, throat swollen, barely able to breathe. He'll reach for the medicine box, but no help there, Colin. And then he will reach for this. Up until which point he'll remember that someone has nicked today from his desk at work. Thank you, Sandra. Derek! Derek! Can you leave them bloody fish alone and come and see to your kids? I'm just going to pop out. He loves them fish. Smelly cunts. Now, I don't know how tonight will play out, but there is one thing I do know. And it's that sometimes it would be better if people just died.